I can't tell you how grateful I am they decided not to try and completely redo that theme music, because you're not going to improve on John Williams. You're just not. Unless you're Hans Zimmer. And Hans Zimmer most certainly did not score Jurassic World. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Radulich and Broadcasting Movie Review Club. That's what we're going with, because it's inaccurate. I think it's probably the most accurate we're going to get description of this. I'm Robert Winfree hosting this thing, and I've got Mark Radulich coming on in a minute. Before I bring him on, I have one thing to say about Jurassic World. $524 million. That's how much this thing made worldwide over its opening weekend. I hope you're all ready for Jurassic Galaxy in a couple of years, followed by Guardians of the Jurassic Galaxy, wherein raptor-human hybrids will perform dance sequences led by Chris Pratt to Come and Get Your Love. All right. With that little bit of goofiness out of the way, Mark Radulich, how the heck are you?
I'm picturing the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers standing on a broken street, and Mark Ruffalo turns to the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy and says, "You know what my secret is? I'm always angry." And he turns around and he punches the T-Rex right in the nose. Yeah?
Yeah, all right. That works.
It would be awesome.
Well, awesome in I've got a YouTube channel and way too much time on my hands kind of awesome.
As we all know, I'm a big fan of the podcast Movie Fights, brought to you by the good folks over at Screen Junkies. And one of their fights this week was they pitched a sequel to Jurassic World. And part of the reason why they were doing that is with the amount of money this thing made over the weekend, you can pretty much call Jurassic World a soft reboot of the franchise. They're already planning more and more sequels to this thing.
3 days.
What's that?
3 days, and this movie is profitable.
It's crazy to me because when you think about it, you know, they've done the thing that I think we all wanted. When Sean and I talked about this on Long Road to Ruin, I actually said I want them to have a working. Now I didn't want it to be on an island. I wanted it to be like in the middle of Orlando or Anaheim, where the two Disney parks are. I wanted it to be right here in North America and have the dinosaurs escape and go running into the city.
So you wanted the final 10 minutes of The Lost World.
Or Godzilla. Yes. But they had a functioning park, and that was what we all wanted. We wanted to see a Jurassic Park movie where the park is functional and you have dinosaurs going after tourists and all of that. And they've done that now. So, the question then becomes, what more do you need to do with these dinosaurs to continue to make movies like this? Because obviously there is an interest in watching dinosaurs murder people. Okay?
The correct answer is Planet of the Dinosaurs. The genetically modified dinosaurs have escaped, they take over the world, and humanity goes underground.
I'm wondering if there is a way. See, here's my pitch. You want to hear what my pitch for a sequel to Jurassic World is? Because
Sure.
I think they need to start blending some of these brands together to make money. I want to see them take a thread from this movie that we're going to talk about, because you and I were arguing about it before the show started. The idea of using dinosaurs as military weapons. I want to see them expand on that thread and continue to do genetic modification, and they accidentally invent the xenomorph that they found on LV, whatever it was. I want the actual origin of the alien species to be genetically modified dinosaurs bred for war that turned on their masters and destroyed the human race.
I can't tell you how stupid that is. I really, I don't have the words. The quasi-epic rant from Billy Madison even fails.
Let's talk about the movie, and then we'll come back to how awesome my idea is.
Your idea is awful. All right. As far as the plot of this movie goes,
no, hang on. It's only awful in the "you're raping my childhood" sense, and you know it.
No, it's awful in the I imagine exactly how this would look on screen, and I'm wanting to gouge my eyes out.
All right, let's talk about the movie, and we'll come back to how great it is.
Now, look, Michael Bay has already done enough unspeakable things to my childhood. I'm basically over that.
Fair point to you, sir.
Like you said a minute ago, they have a fully functioning park on the original island, Isla Nublar. This is like 20 years after the events of Jurassic Park, I think. Hang on, I will double check the exact date here. 22 years after the events of Jurassic Park, so we're keeping this basically with real chronology. And fully functioning park, it's run by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is your stereotypical career woman from the Hollywood perspective. You've got Chris Pratt training raptors, even though he was in the Navy from the age of, I assume, 18, and probably never advanced above the rank of, petty officer, but now he's a dinosaur expert. Never mind the people go through, years and years of, high-level education to become experts on dinosaurs, but I digress. And they're running a very... They're running a very successful theme park. Unfortunately, to keep up with demand like you have to do with theme parks, you have to release new attractions. The good people running Jurassic World have taken to genetically modifying dinosaurs instead of simply bringing new species to life. They are now creating their own. They create a variation on the T-Rex, which is crossed with, velociraptors, cuttlefish, tree frogs, and I have to assume half a dozen other things. And it is a horribly intelligent monster that tricks everyone into letting it escape. It proceeds to wreak havoc, it communicates, it orders other dinosaurs around. And I'm very sad none of them built a raft that they could paddle off on, but then maybe it would have said too much.
Go home and watch everyone.
It causes all kinds of havoc. Eventually, it is stopped by the original Tyrannosaurus and one of the raptors and the new Mosasaur that they only had one animation for, apparently, because it always does the same thing. It jumps right at the screen and bites something. That's all they had the budget for.
What did you want? Did you want it to do a flip?
I'm just saying it didn't need to be obviously the same model doing the same thing with a different background. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're being a little too hard on the Mosasaurus. It's a fish dinosaur, for fuck's sake, and it was jumping out of the water to bite.
I'm not mocking the dinosaur. I'm mocking the director.
Okay, I'm just curious. If you're the director, and the 3 times you see this thing is one time it bites the shark, one time it bites the woman who's being carried by a pterodactyl, and in the final scene it jumps on land and bites the Indominus Rex and drags it to its watery doom. How would you have directed those scenes so that they were different? If you're really bothered by the fact that it was jumping out of the water to bite things.
Well, you could use a different camera angle. It's always coming right at the screen. Now I know it's for the 3D effect and whatnot, but can we get a different angle on it, please? An overhead shot, maybe a little bit off to the side. Maybe it could look a little bit different. I'm not entirely sure they altered the lighting on the darn thing from daylight to nighttime.
Okay. You have an attention to criticizing detail that I don't think I could ever muster.
It's a byproduct of my issues. Details that I find I fixate on, and they continue to bother me. And it's a personal failing. I'm well aware of it.
But besides, you can't really. The third time it does it, when it jumps up and bites the Indominus, that is a different angle in the sense that it's jumping and then veering to the right somewhat in order to get on land enough to
straight at the screen.
No, the other one, the shark was straight up. The girl was straight up. This one, it jumped on the land.
Okay,
briefly.
The first two are straight out of the water into an overhead shot looking down at the water. This one is about eye level on the ground, and it comes out of the water and then straight at you.
Yes, It jumped at the target.
It's a technical thing that bothered me.
I honestly don't know how they could have done it differently in, doing what it was supposed to be doing. But okay, let's move on.
Again, it's a technical thing that bothered me, and it doesn't play into the movie at all. But that thing is destroyed. They come. Our heroes, Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, and her two nephews, who managed to be, despite child actors, not the worst thing about the picture. They all survive, along with, hundreds of tourists, despite the fact that several of them died, and there's no emotional weight to that, but I'll get to that in a minute. Jurassic World is undoubtedly going to be shut down. That particular branch of engine, I believe Vincent D'Onofrio's character says, is going to be Chapter 11, which, for those of you not familiar, is a form of bankruptcy. But again, our heroes survive, park will be shut down, and life will move on. Now, about this movie, look, movies require people to act stupidly. It's inherent to any movie. People do stupid things, otherwise there wouldn't be a movie. Life would simply go on. There are three things, I believe, that movies have taught us that for some reason no one within the movies bothers to learn. Never conduct a seance in a house where 7 people were murdered, even if you don't believe in the afterlife and ghosts. Don't steal from Kaiser Soze, even if you're 99% sure he's an urban legend. And it doesn't matter how safe they tell you the dinosaur park is. Don't go to it.
Wait, can I do one?
Yes.
Don't tug on Superman's cape. Huh?
And yes, let's not start quoting Jim Croce songs or we'll be here all day.
But yeah, you're right. If anyone ever convinces you to go to a park full of monsters and tells you that the monsters are perfectly within the control of the human beings, take out your genitalia, slap them in the face with it, and then walk away with your pants down around your ankles.
Now, let's be fair, they're not monsters, they're animals, but they're not animals that we are in a position to control. It's just not something you should do. And yet, here we are, with new and exciting ways to be close to the giant dinosaurs that could crush you by looking at you funny. Again, my issues with, the stupidity inherent in movies, because again, you have to have people who act stupidly or there's no movie. It's just the way it is. Mark, look, I'm going to be honest. The original Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies. It's one of my first memories of going to see a movie. I think I was 8 when I went to I was living in Gresham, Oregon at the time. The only theater within reasonable driving distance was a single screen. This was before the advent of everybody has a megaplex. Single screen theater, and I went to see this movie with my mom, my dad, I think my other brother Charles, my other 2 hadn't been born yet, and it remains one of my favorite movies. It's a strong memory I have, so I'm always going to be maybe a little bit hypercritical of things that kind of tread on that because I have such rose-colored glasses attached to it. So before we get into this movie, the original Jurassic Park and how this one fares kind of compared to it, what are your thoughts?
I heard someone, Andy Signor from Movie Fights, called Jurassic Park a perfect movie. I don't quite remember what I said about it during their Long Road to Ruin, which is in the archives here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Sean and I talked about the trilogy last year, and that's when I coined the phrase "more dinosaurs" when talking about the sequel.
Boy, do we have in this particular sequel.
But I do remember saying that from a craft point of view, that there was really nothing wrong with it. Certainly, it's one of my favorite movies. It's an enjoyable movie. It's a CGI tour de force, in that the dinosaurs look real. The people react normally. Your line about movies depend on people to behave badly or stupidly, or you wouldn't have a movie. You wouldn't have a plot. You would have a documentary. You'd have people doing what they do with no tension. So, it's fun. I enjoyed this one more because the difference between the original Jurassic Park and this one is I feel like putting crowds of people in harm's way, to me, gave the movie more stakes and more tension than just a handful of...
You and I are going to disagree pretty heavily there.
Than just a handful of people who went to go and inspect the park when it went haywire. The movie is carried by the one star and the two kids that he is trying to protect, and then there's nothing else. It's just people running through the whole Jurassic Park trilogy is people running through the jungle away from dinosaurs, and with just different setups. This, at least, you had different elements of the crowd. I mean, really, there's only one big scene where the crowd gets attacked, and that's with the pterodactyls. But at least there was the potential of various dinosaurs running amok and starting to kill people, or the Indominus Rex getting to the crowds of people, and those who were trying to stop it not getting there in time. And I enjoyed that. I liked the idea of massive amounts of people in harm's way when in a theme park that runs amok. So from that standpoint, I enjoyed the movie more. I think the second one is sillier, it's schlockier, but I think the concept of a movie where you're bringing dinosaurs to life is silly and schlocky. So I was into it. I mean, and I get that that's probably not the majority opinion, but again, $520 million, maybe I'm not wrong.
Well, speaking personally, again, you and I are going to disagree about that in a few ways. My big issue, and look, I'm all for casualties on screen. All right, one of my big gripes with Age of Ultron is they save everyone and the town dog from falling with the big chunk of Sokovia that Ultron tries to drop onto the Earth. If you're going to have civilian casualties, which again, all four, they still have to mean something. And that's my big gripe with a lot of this movie is there's no weight. There's no heft. There's no depth. It's just, it's all surface. It's, oh, look at this. Oh, look, people died. No, you don't care because you didn't meet any of them, but boy, look, no, the dinosaurs doing other things now. And that, it bothers me in that, how many people died in this movie? I mean, you had that whole team at the beginning. So that's what? Pushing 10, you had a bunch of people that died during the raptor hunt. I mean, look, you're well into double digits, probably closer to 100 than not, as far as casualties, if we're counting injuries as well as actual deaths.
Well, as far as, deaths on screen, you peak with the pterodactyl scene. That's just all-out mayhem. But that's my favorite scene of the movie. I love the idea. I love the idea of you're at this park with your family, and and suddenly death from above comes swooping in, and they're carrying people away. The one character you did know gets killed not just by a pterodactyl but by the Mosasaurus. I thought it was great, and I really reacted to her death. That was pretty gruesome. Here's what I'll tell you. Based on what
I don't know. Again, it bothers me because you don't care. You as an audience member care nothing for these people and their deaths.
Don't tell me who I care about and who I don't care about.
Did you actually care?
I did not want her to die.
Really?
Yes. I felt like she was doing the best job she could taking care of those boys, and I felt like she was being taken for granted. And then the poor woman who's just doing her job ends up being killed by a dinosaur.
Yeah.
That's also an awful way to go, by the way. First of all,
yes. That's a bad way to go.
If some winged creature suddenly swoops down and picks you up, that's one thing. Then to be eaten by a fish dinosaur is markedly worse. But here's what I think the problem that you're struggling with, and some of the people, all five of them who didn't like this movie are having a problem with is that it's less a Jurassic Park movie as such, and it's more of a half slasher movie, half disaster movie.
Which, again, I'm okay with that by and large. It just, again, let me go back to this one for a second, since we're talking a little bit about the original. There is nothing in this movie that holds a candle to the tension or the memorability of either the T-Rex attack on the Jeeps or the Raptors and the kids in the kitchen from the original Jurassic Park. Nothing comes close.
Okay.
There's no tension in this movie.
I think the beginning. No. I don't agree with that, because when the Indominus Rex tricks the human beings into letting it out of its pen, and Chris Pratt has now watched 2 people get eaten by this thing, and the Indominus Rex is now sniffing around the car, and he has to douse himself in gasoline. I thought there was tension. I mean, granted, I knew he wasn't going to die because he's Chris Pratt.
Then how can there be tension if you're not worried about the characters?
Because I was.
You were not worried. Chris Pratt was not going to die.
No, listen to what I'm saying. My smart brain, my brain that knows how movies work, wasn't worried. But I turned that part of it off, and I was just in the moment. And in the moment, it's frightening. In the moment, I'm with that character, Owen, who was not with the Navajo, but with the Navy, as I said before, which is the line of the movie.
Yes, yes it was.
I laughed pretty hard at that. But he's sitting there, and he knows that if this doesn't work, he's dead. He is Indominus Rex lunch meat. So I was with him. I felt for that character. There was a couple of others. Oh, the other one where the kids are on the cliff, and the one's like, I'm not going to jump. I can't do it. And the Indominus Rex is within like seconds of killing the both of them. And I thought, they could very well die with that kind of a jump into the water. Obviously, again, smart brain knows they're not going to. Somehow they're going to miraculously jump from a cliff into the water and not break both their legs. But okay,
it wasn't that far of a drop.
Well, one of them was.
It wasn't a large cliff. They actually had to stay underwater after jumping so that the creature wouldn't come down after them if it saw them still alive. It was maybe 20 feet, maybe.
Okay, so either way, but still, the way they shot that, the dinosaur came within seconds of biting the 2 of them, and I felt for those 2 kids. When it was attacking the hamster ball, I felt there was tension there. They're stuck in the ball. They're told this thing can support the attack of a dinosaur, and the claw goes through it. And you're like, oh shit! The next time they're dead. So all of those times, I thought there was tension. I mean, you have to do like you do in a James Bond movie, sort of distance yourself from reality for a moment. But I think you have to do that with a lot of these movies. You have to do that. You have to do that with certainly with the Avengers, where you have people using infinite amount of energy for all of these powers, or talking into imaginary invisible walkie-talkies and things like that. It's just that there comes a point where you either believe in the magic of the universe or you don't, and then of course you're going to start having all these problems with the movie because it's not reality. It can't be.
I don't know. Maybe that's me. Maybe it's just me looking at these things too critically. I'd like to think part of it, though, might be a failing of the film itself, because it doesn't do anything to draw you in.
How is that possible? They spent the first hour of the movie. Wait, hang on. They spent the first hour of the movie getting you to know these characters, giving you some history, letting you warm up and get to know these people so that you'll care about them as they go running through the theme park. The first hour of the movie moves kind of slow, which I was appreciative of, because in too many cases they don't do that with movies. It's 10 minutes of getting to know these people, which you can't get to know people in 10 minutes, and then before the murdering starts. This one, it took an hour before, while you got to know all the people in their story arcs before the bit with the Indominus Rex started. And I really liked that.
It seemed like a wait. I appreciate the effort, but, I mean, did you really did any of the characters really benefit from it? Did we get any actual depth, or was it just?
Yes, I got
No,
the brother
it seemed
story.
more like.
The bro-
Let me tell you, this seemed more like. God, no, that's not a correct analogy. This was just like, okay, here are the 4 characters you have to pay attention to. Everyone else is cannon fodder.
Okay.
And that, I don't know, it seemed. I appreciate the effort. Again, like you said, the movie takes its time.
What way? Wait a minute. So these are your stars, and then these are your cannon fodder, and this is different. How?
That okay? Let me rephrase it. That bugs me about most movies. The obvious disparity between characters.
Swear to God, I feel like you're going out of your way not to like this movie.
There are plenty of things I like about it. I enjoyed myself at this movie.
Here's all the things that make up a movie, and you're purposely going out of your way to I don't like the fact that it was in color. Wait, what?
I most certainly enjoyed the fact that it was in color.
Oh, good. Settled. Plugs.
No, I suppose my big gripe about the characters is they're all flat.
Okay.
I mean, and it's an action movie, so I don't expect Shakespeare, all right? I mean, let's be fair here. There are degrees. But you can have depth of character in an action movie. And it seems like they kind of went out of their way with this movie not to give anyone depth, but rather just surface introductions. Here's Chris Pratt. He was in the Navy, and oh, look, it's the guy. You remember him. He was Star-Lord. Yeah, he's cool. He trains Raptors. And here's Bryce Dallas Howard as attractive career woman who's too busy for her family, and boy, she'll sure learn a lesson by the end of this. Here's her kids. They can't possibly die because it's a family movie after all. And we've got
the character. Hang on.
Sorry. That was a. I glossed over the character of the kids. Fine. Here we have quasi-autistic genius and disinterested womanizing teenager. And then you have Slimebag Vincent D'Onofrio, which is.
Hang on. Here is my daughter. Now, Lily, you didn't get to see Jurassic Park, but wouldn't you like to see a movie where a bunch of dinosaurs fight one another?
Yes.
Plugs!
Have you not shown your child Godzilla, then?
No, she's a little young for Godzilla. Get your finger out of your nose. You're on air.
It's an audio medium, not a visual medium. No one cares. Look, if this was a visual one, you'd have to be wearing pants, and so would I, and that just doesn't fly.
Okay, I'm glad you cleaned up your room. Thank you very much, Lily. Thank you for proving my point, by the way. What are you apologizing for?
I knew you were sarcastic, and I filtered her down.
I chose to do this in the living room. It was my own fault.
Okay, well.
Hey, that's better than the last 20 minutes of discussion, so we're a step ahead.
Lily's riveting.
Yes, and the 4-year-old girl wants to see dinosaurs fight. So let's talk about that, huh?
Kids want to see dinosaurs fight. They also don't want to see anyone die on camera. They can't possibly stomach blood or handle any complex thought.
And had Lily been a little bit older and she had gone to see Jurassic Park, she would have found the characterizations of the 4 stars just fine.
I know, and it bothers me in the sense that, and this may deal with a larger issue I have in many ways. But let me get this out of the way because I'm kind of being hard on this movie, and I don't mean to entirely. There are some things I'm very critical of, but there are some. Again, I enjoyed this movie. This is, I think, hands down the best sequel to Jurassic Park. I think this is better than The Lost World. I think it's
that's like what would you rather be? Would you rather have pie, or would you rather I hit you in the kneecap with a damn bat?
Well, it's what I can say. I can say that positively about it. I mentioned this to you off air, and I think I mentioned it walking out of the theater, and I think it's probably the best analogy I have for this movie. It feels like a cover band. This is a cover band of AC/DC that comes to your local town, and you're never going to see AC/DC, but you can see the cover band. And that's not a hang on.
They tour constantly.
It's not a you know what I mean.
Well, use a band that doesn't tour anymore. Nirvana.
No one wants to see Nirvana anyway.
I want to see Nirvana. Kurt Cobain, I love you. I wish you hadn't been murdered.
He committed suicide, let's be clear.
Murdered.
You're not that big a conspiracy theorist. If you were Gavin, I'd have to listen to that, but you're not.
I don't think he can hear you.
My
wife
Pink Floyd. All right, there's another one.
Pink Floyd, Roger Waters still tours.
A member of Pink Floyd tours. The band itself does not. Of course, Pink Floyd sucks, but that's a whole other issue.
The Beatles.
Oh, God. Don't bring them up. I hate the Beatles. I viscerally hate the Beatles.
But the point of it is you're talking about a band, like, a cover band.
Okay, yes, fine. Beatles cover band. That's what we have.
There we go.
Now, and bear in mind, when I say that, let me get back to my point. I don't mean that as an insult. All right? I don't mean that as a how dare you. There are plenty of darn good cover bands. They're successful because we all like the original band. We like their songs. So, why not more of it? This movie felt like a cover band of a Steven Spielberg movie. And that's fine in that, you get some nostalgia notes in there. Again, I'm okay with that. I actually smiled when the T-Rex finally came out because it was kind of like, hello, old friend. Because I was...
Did you say, hello, darkness, my old friend?
No.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to meet with you
song.
again. All right.
And
they don't tour again either, by the way. You could have gone with Simon and Garfunkel because they don't tour.
I know. I could have gone with a lot of crappy bands in the 70s to make my point, but...
There's nothing wrong with Simon and Garfunkel. Move on.
Yeah, no, if we talk music, we'll just start yelling at each other because we have vastly different tastes.
Yes, we do.
But, again, this is a director who has almost no experience, mind you. He has one other full-length movie that he has done that received no release. I think it was either completely independent or direct-to-video. And here he is doing a passable Steven Spielberg impression. And I'm not going to what?
No, I don't disagree with that. I think your analogy holds. I think it's solid. I think they were like, okay, let's go ahead and reboot this. Let's pull this brand off the shelf. Let's rehabilitate it. Wipe the dust off.
Too many goldfish.
Wipe the dust off. There's too many goldfish. You're just swallowing too many goldfish, and then you got to put the pacifier in your mouth. Wait, I'm distracted by my family. I know. I think you're right. I think that it was it was kind of my criticism with a lot of movies, which is you go to do a sequel and it's just more of the stuff that it's the Vince McMahon line that I always use. It's you're just throwing stuff at the screen that you think works without knowing why it works, and you're not including the things that really made it. The subtle things that made something work that people don't necessarily pay attention to. It's like the support beams of a house. Sure, everyone looks at the facade, everyone looks at all the pretty stuff on the outside and says, what a great house this is, but, it's the stuff they don't see that holds the bloody thing up and makes it all work. And so, when it comes to this movie, what you're getting is a lot of facade, and you're not getting a lot of the support beam structure that you got with the original Jurassic Park. Now,
which is really sad in this case, because I think there were a couple of things they could have touched on and really... I mean, look, the original Jurassic Park explores a couple of themes. How much can man meddle with nature, the notion of chaos theory. There are themes touched on that run throughout that movie that, again, unseen it for a lot of it, but it's the glue that holds everything together. It's the stuff that gives the action meaning. In this instance...
I think they explored things with this movie too. With the idea, B.D. Wong's line about, when the one Indian guy is saying to him, "What did you do? I didn't tell you to do this," and B.D. Wong says, "No, this is exactly what you told us to do."
Oh no,
and
that
line
was
of that line from Bryce Dallas Howard about, our data shows that, there was a great. there was something about this that I thought really made it more real than anything else I've seen in a movie of this type. It was an attention to detail that caused the action to go in the direction that it did, that I was actually shocked by, that they took time to explain that. And that was that the overhead on the park is so high that if they don't have these attraction booms, they're going to go under. Just maintenance of the park is too much, that they have to cause a high volume of people to show up at the park in spurts. My wife is now
I appreciated that a lot. I mean, you live next to Disney, so you're kind of by extension aware that you have to do stuff every year, every 12 to 18 months. You need something new.
Try every few. I mean, if you think about just the Magic Kingdom, okay, the Magic Kingdom has Not So Scary Halloween, which literally, Robert, if you are in the park at 3:00 in the afternoon, you have to leave at like 6, and then they reopen the park. And if you want to go to, and you have to buy a second ticket for the same day to go into Not So Scary Halloween. If you go to Mickey's Christmas, same thing. Then they have, starting at the beginning of the year, they have a big marathon that starts off the year, which is a huge attraction magnet. Shifting over to like Hollywood Studios, they have Star Wars Weekends, which is a huge attraction thing. The Flower and Garden Festival at Epcot, the Food and Wine Festival. Welcome everyone to your tourism podcast. But
the point being
that they have concerts there all year. They do this stuff because if they just depended on the attractions that they've already got, after a while no one would show.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I appreciated that. Again, and this is what bothered me, I suppose, about the movie, was they touch very briefly on some of these ideas and then ignore them for the rest of the movie.
What do you want them to do? 2 hours with 2 hours of theme park, spreadsheets?
Look, you have 2 hours in this movie.
Hang on. They had to eventually get to people getting chased by dinosaurs. That's the movie, Robert. At some point they have to get there.
I'm aware of that, but even within that, the problem here is once they start down that road, there's no break. And that's why I think none of it really means anything, because it's just moving from one action set piece to the next.
But I mean, what do you think people are going? Robert, if I'm telling you I have 2 movies here, one's about the economics of theme parks, the other one's about people being chased by monsters, which one is everyone going to?
Well, okay, how in the original Jurassic Park, after things go to hell, we still have a scene where the characters can sit down and talk, where there are ideas discussed. And in this, it's
weren't one. They were the whole thing with Vincent. That whole setup with Vincent D'Onofrio and the train raptors was your thought piece about what do you do with these things now that you created them, other than ooh and ah. What else can the dinosaurs be other than an attraction? And Vincent D'Onofrio makes that whole subplot is him making the argument that these are things that we can use to better humanity. Why send soldiers into combat when we can send raptors?
Well, because raptors can't be controlled.
I'm not asking for a counter argument. I'm saying that you're asking, when does the movie take a breath so that you can consider some things? And I'm telling you where it happened. They've already addressed. I mean, not to mention that they do readdress the fact that B.D. Wong's whole monologue about we're not mad scientists, we were doing what you asked us to do, is a reflection of what is said earlier in the movie about creating attractions. Because otherwise, people won't come to the park in the numbers that they need.
I get all that. My frustration kind of stems from it's thrown in there almost not completely willy-nilly, but it felt like, okay, we need a brief scene of dialogue to kind of ground the audience every 40 minutes. And they plugged it into a mathematical formula and then inserted it as such.
All right, so is your argument that there wasn't enough timeouts in the action? Is that essentially what you're saying, that they overloaded it on action and there wasn't enough time for the audience to catch their breath?
Yes, basically.
Okay, fuck you, Fury Road.
I would completely disagree with that. I think there's plenty of times in that movie for the audience
Melissa?
to slow down and catch their breath.
I rest my case.
But I'm aware of what you, your father, your wife, your children, and your second cousins think about it, and I don't want to rehash that argument.
But I mean,
how
can people be? No, wait a minute. How can people be so in love with Fury Road, which was literally an hour of action with no break? Okay, there was an hour of just the car chase before they took a break, and let the audience breathe. But this movie, which does take pauses and does allow you to breathe, they're like, oh my God, it's wearing me out. It's exhausting.
I don't feel it's exhausting. I feel it's thoughtless. I agree.
We will agree to disagree. I thought there was plenty of time taken to consider some of the philosophy behind the movie.
It felt like they sprinkled it in because Jurassic Park is supposed to have some of those overarching philosophical issues, but they.
Wait, now you're arguing that the thoughtful scenes were hollow on top of everything. First, there's not enough of them. Now they're hollow.
They're not hollow. They're piecemeal.
Okay. Can we please talk about raptors being trained for army detail and then the monster triple threat?
That honestly, for everyone listening, the notion of militarizing dinosaurs, of weaponizing them, was, I thought, the single dumbest thing put forward in this movie.
It's so cool. I want to train raptors to mow my lawn.
Yeah, because they wouldn't eviscerate you at the first possible option.
Not if you train them right.
The point of this is you can't.
Chris Pratt was the alpha, right? He was the alpha until the crazy raptor cuttlefish monster became the alpha. Get it?
And they still probably would have killed him given the appropriate set of circumstances.
But at the end, him and Blue have a moment.
Oh God, that almost. Look, I can appreciate him being present for their birth and asserting himself and doing. I can appreciate the efforts they took to make him asserting himself within the pack dynamic believable. Until the very end, when the raptor was like, "Oh look, more food possibly," and Chris Pratt just kind of shakes his head, and "Oh darn, this giant." Soft, fleshy thing that tastes delicious told me not to eat it. Well, boy, I'd better not.
My counter argument to you, the people that train the tiger in the circus.
Because that worked out so well for Siegfried.
It didn't. It took years, and that tiger was probably pissed. But it was. but that's after years. Okay, this wasn't like a brand new tiger and a brand new act. They had that. Siegfried and Roy had that tiger for like decades, and I think the tiger had been reading material that it shouldn't have had. This is why you don't teach slaves to read, and and it mounted a counterattack.
Printed type. You must keep this from the serfs, lest they gain literacy and threaten the landed gentry.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The tiger. Someone taught the tiger to read. They gave the tiger some literature from around the Revolutionary War, and then it turned on its masters, as you do. But the science.
Look, there are animals. There are animals that can be domesticated, and there are animals that cannot, and dinosaurs cannot.
How do you know that, sir? What dinosaurs have you worked with in captivity? How many dinosaur farms have you worked on?
I can't say that I have.
Want to know why? Because dinosaurs aren't really alive.
Because today's current ecosystem couldn't actually support them.
My point
I mean, even if you could bring dinosaurs back.
We can teach monkeys to disarm mines. We can teach dolphins to go after torpedoes. Why can't we, in that same world, in that same magical world where we're creating monsters, through genetics, why can't we teach raptors to attack Russians?
Because they don't differentiate. You can if you wanted to have a bunch of starving raptors, drop them into a populated area that's peopled entirely by your enemies. I'm actually okay. Raptor bomb.
Well,
That
how do you
makes
think we
sense.
got Saddam? Wait a sec. How do you think we got Saddam Hussein? They used raptors. They sent the raptors. They sent Raptor Team 6 in, and they found them in the spider hole.
They did not use raptors, and that is not how that happened. Close to how that happened.
I thought the raptor thing was great, and I thought visually the scene of Chris Pratt riding his motorcycle, amongst a pack of raptors was fantastic.
I was so torn on that scene. I wanted to hate it. I really did, but I couldn't.
You are no fun. Robert Cooper is fun time Robert Cooper. You are no fun at all, Robert Winfree.
I am very well aware of that.
How do you not see a man on a motorcycle running with a pack of raptors and not have a giant hard-on that goes right up your nose? Okay?
Actually, because I was being bombarded with CGI, that just continued to aggravate me. But
this old sword.
Hang on. I understand why, all right? There are no raptors. You can't build machines that mimic raptors moving. I'm not an idiot, all right? I understand. You want to do that scene. That's how you have to do it. Fine. It's a cool visual.
In World of Warcraft, you can ride a raptor. If you're a hunter, you can you can ride a raptor around.
Yeah, World of Warcraft features 7 or 8 different races, giant dragons, extra. Do we really want to compare reality to World of Warcraft?
I'm just saying, in World of Warcraft, you can tame a raptor. Why can't you tame a raptor in Jurassic Park?
Well, if this was World of Warcraft, the movie, I wouldn't care that they were training raptors, because you did it with a magic stick.
Yes, you would. You'd be arguing that the raptors somehow, are untamable, but the tiger is okay.
No, that whole world is its own entity, completely independent from ours. So the taming the raptors, and look, and it was going according to plan. The raptors were doing as they were told until they ran into the Indominus Rex, who, spoiler alert, as it turns out, was our raptor. Until they ran into something bigger. Yeah, and I love the communication. One of my favorite scenes, though, that whole sequence from soup to nuts, from the time they got out of the horsey gate to running through the jungle to when they get to the Indominus Rex, and then they have this maneuver here. Okay. At which point they turn around. It's like, oh no, the raptors have turned on us. That was great, Robert. How do you as a moviegoer not laugh your ass off at that and go, yay, raptors, and throw popcorn in the air? I don't know. I am a miserable human being with no sense of humor, I guess. Hang on, because even if your argument is it's impossible to tame the raptors, you should have been cheering at that point. It turned on its horrible masters. It turned on the people that were trying to militarize them. What is the line from Star Trek? And everyone and their dog should have seen it coming. What is the line from Star Trek for the dipshit stuff? You're not trying to get whales to turn off bombs or something like that, or any dipshit stuff like that. And he says to her, no, ma'am, no dipshit. Something like that. I don't remember. It's been too long since I've seen that movie to remember all of the minutia of it. We talked about it earlier this year, and you can look up the discussion of Star Trek 2, 3, and 4 on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, our Long Road to Ruin Spock trilogy episode from the beginning of 2015. In the archives now on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. That was seamless. Thank you, sir. All right, Triple threat. Yes, we have to touch on the okay, I don't know. The horribly awesome, awesomely horrible, over-the-top finale wherein the T-Rex fights the Indominus Rex and is about to lose, but then the last surviving raptor comes down and makes a run-in for the save, and we get a spontaneous triple threat match. I wanted Teddy Long's voice to come over that.
Tag team with the Undertaker.
Playa. And then there's still the screwy finish because the Mosasaur comes in for the DQ.
Yeah, that was kind of the chair shot, you know. I loved it. I thought listen, you're talking about a world where they bring dinosaurs to life, and they even say, you know, that they can't do it completely, so they have to use genetics from other animals, and kind of makes the dinosaurs a little weird. You know, you're talking about a world where they create an entire theme park full of monsters, most of which are harmless, but a few of them go a little crazy. And in that world, watching the monsters all fight one another was great. This is what I wanted Godzilla to be from last year. You know, Godzilla versus the two robot spiders. I wanted to see monsters fight one another. This is why I loved Pacific Rim and why it's one of my favorite movies. I just want to see giant stuff hit one another. And these people reached into my brain and said, yeah, here it is on screen. I could have sat in that movie theater completely pantsless, okay? That's how great that scene was. And then when the Mosasaurus jumps up and bites the thing and brings it to its brainy death, Shakespeare, I tell you. It's the Death Star being blown up. That's how great it was.
Well, that wasn't that great, but...
Goodness gracious.
I'm not a Star Wars fan. As far as visceral emotional reactions go, I'm not a Star Wars fan. I can appreciate them, I can enjoy them, but I'm not a fan in the traditional sense.
Okay, Killjoy. So what was your problem with the Monster Mash? It was a graveyard smashing.
Yeah, so I've been told. You know, I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, this whole movie is, again, I feel large swaths of it are just deeply superficial without emotional depth. So having the big CGI monster fest at the end is fine. You know, it was a suitably cheesy way, and I don't mean cheesy in the negative sense. I mean, this is the kind of cheese you want slathered all over your potato. You have the perfect amount of cheese, the perfect amount of, well, sure, we'll get the monsters to fight each other. And that's as the finale to it, and the unnatural is finally defeated by the natural, humans leave the island, and the T-Rex reigns supreme again.
Hooray!
I'm okay with that, sure. Again, my issue with... God, I have to talk about the CGI in this movie over the last few minutes here. Not because this is not bad in the sense that it took me out of the movie. This is bad in the sense that it felt lazy. I mean, there are sequences... Hang on. There are sequences in this movie where you must have CGI, all right? Again, there's plenty of running from the dinosaurs and dinosaurs fighting, and you must have CGI for that. But it's at no point during any of the, smaller interactions between Chris Pratt and the Raptors did they think, hey, maybe we should actually, build a raptor for him to interact with? Because
I guess I see your point, but one, I'm not the CGI snob you are. Number two, I didn't see the Congo level of CGI or Phantom Menace level of CGI that would have taken me out of the movie. It looked fine. There was no point in the movie where I was like, that looks fake. There was nothing that took me out of the movie. Let me say this. I'm sitting here defending the movie, and when it was over, I was like, that was fun. I had the same reaction to Jurassic World that I have when I get off a roller coaster. It was fun while it lasted. It's over now, and that's it. This is not a movie that that I'm like, oh my God, I got to show my kids. This is one of my favorite movies ever. It was a 2-hour roller coaster, and then it was done. I think you and I talked before the show started about what I would compare it to. I said I compared it to the first Avengers movie, which, again, much like Fury Road, somehow or other everyone seems to think is awesome. That was another example of for 2 hours I got taken on this roller coaster ride, but that's kind of all it was. Where Avengers 2 was a thoughtful movie and everyone hated it. So, but unlike like Fury Road, at least there was, to me, differentiation in what I was looking at, and it wasn't 2 hours of the same damn thing over and over and over again, in my opinion. So don't get me wrong. I'm in no way saying Jurassic World was a fucking masterpiece. I'm saying it was a fun roller coaster ride type movie, and that's really all there is to it. I don't think it holds up as well as the first one, but it meets my need to see pandelirium and nonsense, which, for a 2 hour summer blockbuster is all I really want.
I can't really argue with it. I mean, again, I came out of that movie, I'm kind of like you. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I don't really have a desire to see it again.
That was one of them.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of movies. I've seen plenty of movies with dinosaurs, and that just happened to be one of them. I don't know. I suppose part of my issue is when you attach yourself to a franchise, you are then assuming a level of expectation that comes with it. And while this movie managed,
that with Hollywood, have no expectations. Just enjoy the ride and hope it doesn't hurt too much.
Well, and this one didn't hurt as much as, say, Jurassic Park 3, so there is that.
Oh, God, well, Jurassic Park 3 is like, it's like shooting heroin. Well, it's like shooting heroin without feeling good.
It's not that bad. That would be Zoolander.
Okay. We got a minute and 30 seconds here. Is there anything? I mean, look, I would give this movie a solid A-. It was a fun time at the theater. I from a craft point of view, I actually thought the movie was well done. From a characterization point of view, it was just enough for me not to be annoyed. And there was plenty of action sequences and fun stuff for me to enjoy the movie without really criticizing it. What would you say?
I don't know. I don't like doing ratings like that. It's because I feel if I'm going to have to rate something like that, it has to be an arbitrary scale. And not everything falls onto an arbitrary scale.
So
things fall within scales with what they attempt to do.
Where would you put it in terms of the movies we've seen so far? Because I think right now the worst movie we've seen is, and worst being a relative word here, is Tomorrowland. And the best movie, I think we both agreed, the four best, in whatever order you want to put them in: Fast and the Furious, Cinderella, Avengers, Fury Road. So, and you've got, San Andreas like in the middle there. So where would you place Jurassic World?
It's above Tomorrowland.
It's not the worst movie we've seen yet. Okay. Better or worse than San Andreas?
Probably about the same.
That's the same. Okay.
That's about where I'd rank it. If we're just listing what we've seen so far, it's about that.
I liked it more than Fury Road.
I disagree with that. I would rather see. I've actually seen Fury Road more than once. I don't feel compelled to see this movie again.
You can't disagree with it. It's my opinion. It's a subjective statement. I thought it was better than Fury Road.
And I disagree with that. The weird thing about Fury Road is I as much as I enjoyed it, I started talking with people about it, and I enjoyed it more the second time. And this was just, again, it's fun. I enjoyed myself for the time I was at Jurassic World, but it suffers from the same thing that I think all of these superficial, let's just have action sequences goes through, and that is, the dialogue tends to be weak, the characters tend to be flat and underdeveloped. Weak is a bit strong there. The characters, I said flat. Characters are flat and underdeveloped. And, very little of substance actually happens. Things happen, but nothing actually happens. And that's just the state of cinema. Okay.
I mean, I think we've kind of shown we've had the conversation about that. That's I'm not going to re-argue the same points again. Next Wednesday is Inside Out, the Pixar movie. Apparently, it's one of the best movies of the year, according to critics. So,
Pixar has a virtually flawless record. They have one movie that I think is bad, and everything else is at least yes. Cars 2 is just a blatantly bad cash grab.
So we'll be doing Inside Out next week. I'm bringing my daughter to that on Saturday. We already have tickets. I'll be curious to see what her opinion of it is. I may bring her on momentarily, just so she can shout obscenities into the computer. No, I may bring her on briefly, just to get her opinions of it. It'll probably be something like, "But Daddy, I'm a ballerina," and then she'll spin out of the room. That's what she does.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. All right. What else you got going on in your world, Mr. Robert?
Well, seeing as I am guaranteed, personally speaking, not to have to watch The Abomination, that is Kimbo Slice and Ken Shamrock this Friday.
Larry hasn't asked you to cover it?
I have not been asked to, and you were kind enough to volunteer to cover the main card if he does want coverage. So, nuts to that card.
Don't volunteer me. No. Hang on. Don't volunteer me. If he asks you, say, that you're taking a holiday, but Mark would be happy to step in for the television coverage.
I will not message him out of the blue and say Mark is going to cover Bellator on Friday. I promise.
If you do, I will renege.
I'm aware of that.
Okay.
And no, you won't. You know you won't. You'll get to watch Ken Shamrock and Kimbo Slice. And hey, Bobby Lashley's on that card just to further kick me in the nuts.
But, now that you mention it, I'm now realizing that, when is the Ring of Honor pay-per-view is Sunday?
I have no idea.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. I'll have to check. For some reason I thought it was Friday, but I'm thinking that doesn't make any sense. Wrestling pay-per-views are always on Sunday.
They might go Saturday. Ring of Honor's been known to do that, but I really doubt it's Friday. But anyway, since I don't have to cover that was the only thing that might have prevented me from doing Everyone Loves a Bad Guy on Friday. I don't have to do that, and I don't get paid enough to cover Kimbo Slice and Ken Shamrock. I just don't.
You're being silly.
Funny.
Okay,
yes,
Best in the World 2015 Battle of the Belts is actually June 19th, which is Friday.
Oh. Okay, don't care. It's Jay Briscoe and Jay Lethal. I mean, how far has Ring of Honor sunk?
I watched it, but now I'm going to be watching Kimbo Slice versus Ken Shamrock.
Well, maybe you'll get to flip back and forth between them.
Well, I'm not paying for a pay-per-view that I'm not going to watch.
And you pay for pay-per-view. That's cute.
Yes, it's called not stealing.
I'm not a thief. I find other ways.
You're not a thief. You're borrowing indefinitely. You're Homer Simpson, and the world is your Ned Flanders.
Absolutely not. I just don't spend $60 on a pay-per-view.
Get him, Dana White. You heard him.
I have friends I'll split costs with. I have been known to find, restaurants with Wi-Fi connections that I can go hang out in and watch. I just feel no desire to actually spend money on anything. I hate spending money.
So I now have this image of you going to the Buffalo Wild Wings near your house, but you're wearing like a Melissa, get him.
Oh, and let's all hope DCFS isn't listening to this.
Okay.
All right, let's wrap this up. Okay, so anyway, Everyone Loves a Bad Guy will be on Friday. I'm probably going to do something related to monsters or dinosaurs, seeing as we have Jurassic World, and I'm all about synergy because I'm ordered to be all about synergy. So tune
Sorry
in for
about that.
that. I'll see about So I'll see about if anyone's going to be free to come on and talk them with me. If not, I throw open the phone lines. I'll yak for 60 minutes. We'll all move on with our lives.
I have to tell you what just happened.
Okay, go ahead.
So my son mounts my sleeping daughter. she's sleeping on the couch. He just mounts her, crawls up on her chest and hugs her head. He's like, "Ah, look at me," and they both proceed to then slide off the couch. So he falls back and head first. She falls on top of him out of a deep sleep, mind you. And I couldn't get to them in time, which is why you hear me yell, "Hey, Melissa, get them."
And again, we hope the Department of Child Protective Services doesn't listen to the podcast.
Yeah, we hope. He's fine. He's fine. He landed on his head.
That won't have lasting consequences. So anyway, that on Friday. This Saturday, I have live coverage of UFC Fight Night 69, Jędrzejczyk versus Penne. Exclusive to Fight Pass, so stop by 411 Mania, say hi. I'll be providing coverage of that event live from Berlin, Germany, so you know Dennis Seaver and Peter Sabata are fighting. Yeah. It's an international fight night card. What do you want? Adjust your expectations accordingly, people.
I'm rushing home after Lily and I go see Inside Out to see the Fight Night Berlin. I'm very excited.
Really? What are you excited about for this card?
The main event.
Okay. Watching Joanna beat the crap out of other women is always fun.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I'm relatively sure after this fight, Dana White will anoint her the new Saint Iceman. Because he likes
tomorrow night.
Hyperbolize like that. You got Jack Ryan tomorrow night, don't you? The good one?
Yeah. We had to put that off. Sean's been really busy lately, so we had to put off our Orange is the New Black review. We had to put that off until next weekish, and then we had to also the first episode of the Jack Ryan Long Room was delayed until tomorrow. So tomorrow night we'll be talking The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, and Clear and Present Danger, and then 2 weeks-ish someday. Not really sure because the schedule's all screwed up now. I have to go back and redo it.
But, in a couple of weeks you'll be talking about Ben Affleck and Chris Pine and those movies, which kind of suck.
Yeah, eventually we'll get to it. This is really the only show I'm doing right now that stays consistently on schedule.
Hey, my show stays pretty much on schedule. I wound up missing last week because I was a bit under the weather and still deeply depressed after we lost Christopher Lee and Dusty Rhodes on the announcement on the same freaking day, but...
Yep. All right. So, take us home, and I'm going to hit the outro music.
All right, everyone. Remember, this is a fun, entertaining movie if you want, and it's completely safe for all of your kids to go see. So go see Jurassic World if you haven't. You'll probably enjoy it. I can't recommend seeing it more than once, but it's your preference. Your mileage will vary. For Mark Radulich, I'm Robert Winfree, reminding you all we'll be back next week for Pixar, and we'll discuss how, again, they're so effective at making grown men cry in public places, because they're darn good at it. And until then, be well, be safe, and behave.